Latest football news,
engaging debates,
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio for another Friday. Hope you are all doing well. It is me, George, as always, your host. Hope you're enjoying this week. It's been a lovely, beautiful week where I live. We've had blue skies, still a little bit nippy, but the clock's going forward. So summer is going to be here and it's going to be absolutely beautiful. Well, this week I am joined by our co-host as always, Dan. Dan, how you doing? It's been a beautiful week, but for Ipswich Town, it's been a quiet week, if we can say. No games, no midweek games. What are they doing?
No, I know. It's been a long time coming, hasn't it? I think it's been a quiet for everyone in the football world, really, hasn't it, this week? Nothing's really happened because of international break. So, yeah, a bit boring week, to be honest.
Well, yeah, okay, a bit boring for entertainment-wise, but, you know, we've managed to scrape together some sort of show for you for all the football news that is happening. And before I mention what we're talking about this week, I better mention the social medias, Twitter, at Pitchside Talk, Instagram, Talk_Pitch, YouTube, Mixcloud, both at Pitchside Talk if you want to listen back to any of our previous shows, or you want to see any additional content. We do match previews for every Ipswich Town game, Champions League game, and Premier League game, and some other newsy bits as well. So make sure you go over there and check us out. Well, we're talking about this week, we're talking about Ipswich Town. They've only played one game this week. Had a lot of controversy in it and a lot of news about it. And also what is going to be happening with the future of Ipswich Town with some players being out of contract. The Premier League, that happened. We had a few games before the international break. We had 4 games. So we'll cover those for you. And the FA Cup is back. We've found out who has got through the quarterfinals and who will be playing who in the semi-finals, and we've got some, well, quite interesting games for you in the semi-finals. So when we come back, we're going to be talking about Ipswich Town and what happened when they travelled down to Fratton Park on Saturday. Stay up to date with the latest footy news. Pitchside Talk on IO Radio. Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. It's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan, as always. Now, before we go on and talk about Ipswich Town and what's been going on this week on and off the pitch, I better mention the social medias: Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud, both at Pitchside Talk. If you listen back to any of our previous shows or any additional content we do previous to Premier League games, Champions League games, and the Ipswich Town games. I completely forgot what order I put that in my head. We upload them early on YouTube and also go on Twitter, so make sure to check them out as well to see those as well. Well, Ipswich Town this week, they are back in action for only one game this week. Yes, one game. That's madness. So we have been having so many back-to-back weekends of games, and we've had only one game this week. That's the first time since playing Burton Albion back in January. Ipswich only had for one game a week.
That's mad, isn't it?
that's bonkers. Like I didn't know what to do myself on Tuesday night. I was like, well, Twitter's quiet.
Are Ipswich playing or not?
Yeah, literally. Well, Ipswich did play, didn't they? Because the youth side played against Hull.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's just say it didn't end too well. I think it ended 4-1 at one point. Well, it was 4-1 at one point, wasn't it?
It did end 4-1, yeah.
It did end 4-1. Not a great start for them, but, you know, we'll have to wait and see. But Ipswich Town, we better talk about this game. They travelled down to Fratton Park to play Portsmouth, who have been in terrible form recently, which led to the sacking of Kenny Jackett and also the appointment of Daniel Crowley, a man who was rumoured to come to Ipswich Town, but he didn't come in the end, and he went to Portsmouth, and he made it 2 defeats in a row for Paul Cook's side. It ended 2-1 on the day. Dan, another defeat. Another blow to that promotion push after, I think we can say, a very good start by Ipswich Town, a very high-pressing start, and it just all crumbled up at one point.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it was a really good start to the game. You know, we looked up for it. We looked like we were passing it around quite quickly. You know, we were trying to get it forward quite quickly. The system was kind of the same, but I thought Bennett did pretty well on the ball. I thought he was quite good in the first half. And Edwards, I think, was the other person out wide. He did all right. And then, yeah, we got the goal, which was probably deserved. A really good finish from James Norwood in the end. You know, he doesn't usually smash it like that, does he? He usually tries to be clever, try and dink it over the keeper or try and do a clever finish, but this time he just decided to put his foot through it, and that worked. A lovely finish from him. And at that point, I thought, we're in the ascendancy here. Portsmouth don't look like they're really doing anything. We've been on top for all of this first half. We need to just go and score that second goal quickly. But that's our problem, isn't it? Scoring goals. We just struggle so much at doing it. And when we score that first goal, we can't seem to actually build anything from it, because Portsmouth's first attack, I think it was literally their first attack. I think they got a corner and a good header from the Portsmouth player, and then that was it. It's such a problem for us. I think the problem is we lack confidence so much that we score that first goal. We could build on that. Our confidence could skyrocket from that, and we could try and get a second. But no, we make I think it was a mistake for the corner. Can't really blame anyone for the goal, because it was a good corner and a good header. But straight away from that, our heads dropped, and we need to sort that out. We can't, we concede a goal. We can't let our heads drop so much so quickly, because from then we didn't look good at all. Portsmouth looked like they were in the ascendancy at the end of the first half. We were begging for half time to see if Paul could put his point across at half time, do a good team talk. But in the second half, we did nothing again. And it's so worrying to see stuff like that happening still, because, it happened under previous manager that we look good in parts, but we cannot play in 90 minutes. And it's happening again. I'm not blaming the manager for this, Paul Cook, because, he hasn't had long at the club and he's only got what he's got. But, it's still worrying that we're only playing, what was it? It was 40 minutes of a game this week. We always have a good half and a bad half. Maybe it was different against Fleetwood, because I think the whole game was pretty poor. But yeah, that's still a massive worry. And, after Portsmouth scored that second goal, it was only, it was game over, wasn't it? I think everyone realised that it was game over. And it's such a disappointment, because I really do think we could have taken advantage of that first goal. The fact that we were on top, we could have taken advantage. The win was there for the taking. But, one goal, confidence drops, and we bottled it again. And, our fans are questioning the players now, because it's just getting too much now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a little bit. But before we move on to about the confidence, I want to just talk about that high energy start from Ipswich Town. A lot of pressing, a lot of moving on the ball with purpose, which we saw in the Plymouth game. We only saw that for about 20 minutes, but this time it was double. It was 40 minutes we saw this high pressing football. When I'm finally seeing Paul Cook's style play, which is now finally coming to full effect, and we might see a little bit more on this week or tomorrow, actually, against Wigan, because of he's had a few days now of the training. But we're now seeing that they're clearing that first hurdle. They got through the first 10 minutes without conceding with this style of play. Is it now for the better, this style of play? Do you think this is now it's working, but it's just not with the right personnel just yet?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think it's slowly working, isn't it? I think it's slowly coming into effect. I don't think it's happening. Well, obviously, it isn't happening properly yet, because we can't do it in a full game. And you can't really blame the players too much on that, because it's a completely different style of play to nearly said his name then, previous manager, who kind of just wanted to play possession football, but didn't really do anything with it. But this is different. It's quick tempo. It's keeping the ball, but with purpose. So I think the players are trying to, get on board with that. They need to do it quickly, because there's not that much of the season left, and there's still time to get in the playoffs. But yeah, I think Paul Cook's style of play is slowly being implemented on the pitch. And I think it's not going to be long until, I think this week is an important week, because it's a full week, no games at all, a full week of training. So I think this is an important week for him. So yeah, I think it's not going to be long until we see fully what's going on. And I think that's you said it's an improvement. I think so. It's definitely improvement to what it was before, because as I said, it's more energy, isn't it? And that's what we want to see. We want to see purpose with our passing. We don't want to see us passing it around the back and then the manager just saying we played well just because we've got 70% of possession, because that's not how football works, is it? So it's good to see, him playing with this style of football and trying to play with purpose. And then, in the interviews, not coming out and lying to the fan base. It's really refreshing to see. I still trust in Paul Cook. People are starting to doubt him already after a few games. I still trust him. I'm going to give him this summer and see what we can do next year, because I think that our squad next year is going to be very different.
Yeah, it's mad that people are already questioning about how many games he had now. 5, 6, 5 or 6?
5.
5.
Yeah.
I've lost count, performance, because I thought he managed the game against Hull and the youth side on Tuesday, but unfortunately that wasn't the game he managed there. But yeah, as you said there, the high energy starter worked. They got Ipswich in front thanks to James Norwood's goal in the 32nd minute before Pompey hit back just before half-time with the equaliser. Do you feel that caused a bit of psychological damage to this side as the confidence just sunk in the second half? They were a completely different side, which Paul Cook highlighted in his interview after the game. Mentally, we are not as strong as we should be. Is that the main problem why Ipswich Town have struggled this season and the season before that and in the Championship as well? The confidence is not there, and the mentality, you can see, like, when they go 1-0 down, it just sinks. It goes down like a lead balloon. And do you feel that is a problem with this side?
Yes, it's a major problem with this side. As you said, it's been like that for so long now. I think even in the last season under Mick McCarthy, it was like that. At the end of that season, I think it's been a massive problem for so long. I think that's one of the tasks that Paul Cook has got. He's going to have a really hard time sorting out. I think he's a good manager to try and do that, because I think he's just an upbeat person, and he's that kind of man. But yeah, it's a really difficult job to do, to try and do that. But yeah, it's been a massive problem for so long, and as soon as we concede, it's just heads down every time. It used to be where we'd concede, and Chambers mainly used to try and get the players pumped again, try and say this isn't it, but that just doesn't happen now. It's like we concede and everyone just thinks, oh well, that's it, we're going to lose this game. That really needs to be sorted out quickly, because that is a big problem with this squad. And I think some people are talking about on Twitter that it takes so long for our confidence to get up. It takes really long for that to happen, but then our confidence drops suddenly like that, and it can't be like that, because that's not going to bring you success if your players aren't the mentality is bad, and something needs to be done about that, because it's a big problem. People trying to decide whether it's the players aren't actually good enough in this league. I think maybe there's a point to that, but I think confidence and mentality, and I think especially in this league, you need consistency, and if you've not got the right mentality for that, it's not going to happen. And yeah, I think Paul Cook's got his work cut out in that area, although I think he can do that once he gets his own players in.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see. Well, I want to move away from all the negative stuff from that performance. I want to focus on one big positive from that game, the return of Kane Vincent-Young to the matchday squad. He was on the bench and he got a 20-minute cameo. He's missed the last 29 games, or 17 months, roughly, from a groin surgery and other complications along the road. But Dan, he is finally back. Such a long time out, and we got to see his attack-minded nature once again, which I think made a small little difference to Ipswich Town in that second half, helped them a lot more. And also Paul Cook, he likes attack-minded fullbacks. It is a match made in heaven, I think we can say here.
You'd like to think so, wouldn't you? It's a massive boost to the side, because it's a player that made such a difference in the 9 games that he played. such a massive difference. It's mad how much difference he made. I read the other day that Mick Mills, who's on BBC Radio Suffolk, he put Kane Vincent-Young as his right back of the decade after 9 games he played. Yeah, so
What?
that's Mick Mills said that. So he made a massive difference. And I think that's a big boost. And he's the type of player that Paul Cook loves, isn't he? And I love a pacey fullback as well. So I'm pretty excited. Obviously I'm not going to get too ahead of myself. He's only just come back. We can't expect him to be amazing from the off. But I think straight away, he came on and showed what he could do. He got up the pitch, against Portsmouth. He got up the pitch pretty much straight away. I think he won a throw in down that side of the pitch, up in their third. So, yeah, I think it's a massive boost. Really good that he's back. Let's hope he doesn't get injured again and we can try and... I hope he doesn't put him in the squad straight away and he gets injured. So I think we can feather him back into the squad, and I think it'll be a really good boost for Paul Cook and the team.
Yeah, I think it'll be a big boost. You said that the 9 games that he played last season, a big boost. This was Town. He scored that goal against Tranmere. Oh, beautiful goal. But Paul Cook has said that he is not sure if he will be starting on Saturday, so he might be making another bench appearance. We just don't know just yet. But back to, unfortunately, the negatives. Town are 2 points off the playoff places now. They're now sitting 10th as Blackpool, Portsmouth and Gillingham have leapfrogged them in the table. As you said, a lot has been spoken about the side. Can they get them up this season, and the longevity of this side, really, and it going forward in the future? Because at the moment, we do know that 13 players' contracts are up in the summer. Quite a few big names. I won't go through them because we are going to go through them on a separate video or on a separate video in another day in the next few weeks. So stay tuned on our YouTube for that. But as you said about massive change, will we see it? It has been talked about, but are we going to actually see it happen this summer?
I think it's inevitable. With so many players out of contract at the end of the season, I think Paul Cook, he wants to bring his own style of play and his own players in. So I think it's inevitable that people will leave. It's going to be interesting to see who he decides he doesn't want, because there's a lot of senior players in this list of players that are out of contract. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see who he keeps and who he doesn't want to keep for next season. And I think maybe it depends where we are. I expect us to still be in League One next year, because I think everyone does. But it'll be interesting to see if we maybe finish in the playoffs and don't go up, whether it will be different to if we miss out on the playoffs. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. But I think these players now, you'd think that they'd be wanting to try and perform well and win themselves this contract, but it doesn't seem to be happening like that. I don't think it's a lack of trying, I guess, but we've said about consistency and mentality before that is the problem, and I think players not performing is going to hamper their future at the club, I think, and I think that's going to, Paul Cook is really going to look at these players and think, have they played well in my time here? Have they shown something that I like? And if so, I'll keep them. And if not, I'm afraid that's it for you. But yeah, it's really going to be interesting this summer. And I think it's going to be a big one. I think there'll be a lot of additions. Maybe not as much as when Paul Hurst joined, because I think that's kind of the problem we had back then. But I do expect a lot of additions. A new striker's needed, maybe 2. Another fullback if Ward and Chambers don't stay on next year. Maybe a goalkeeper as well, because we all know what the opinions are on goalkeepers at the moment. So yeah, I think it's going to be a big summer, and I'm really interested to see, and I'm quite excited to see what happens actually, because it's going to be an eventful few months. I reckon.
Yeah, we're not going to say it's going to be a new era, are we? Yeah, because
a new era.
Well, the last time that was used, it didn't go too well. I think we can say the hand grenade was thrown into the dressing room and the door was shut, and seeing what happened next was the best way to describe it. But Ipswich Town, they are back on the road tomorrow. They're going up to Wigan. They're searching for a chance to get back into the playoffs with a win. And Paul Cook's trying back to his former side in Wigan, who kept them up in the Championship, but unfortunately, due to financial problems, they got a points deduction of, I want to say it's 12 in the end, which sort of
it was.
got down into the relegation, and now they're in League One, and they're currently fighting to stay up in this league. They're currently in 22nd place. They're joint on points with Bristol Rovers, but they are 2 off safety, which is Northampton Town. Dan, if we look at this here, they're coming into this great run. A very good chance for them to get 3 points here, as Wigan are fighting to stay up in relegation. But this could be quite tough for them because their manager at the moment is Paul Cook's former assistant. So he'll know how Paul Cook will set up his sides. And also, Wigan, they need every point they can get to stay up in this league.
They do, yeah. It's always difficult playing a team fighting to get out of the relegation zone, isn't it? And as you said, their manager knows Paul Cook. He's been with Paul Cook pretty much his whole career. And we all expect him to be at Ipswich next year, don't we? Next season. So that'd be interesting. But yeah, I still don't think it's going to be an easy game. I think it's a winnable game. It definitely is, because it's a team down in the bottom 4, and I think our team is good enough to beat a team down there. But there's still that worry in my mind that we're going to go there and not perform very well, and I don't want it to be a boring 0-0 or we lose 1-0 and don't really perform very well. So it's a must-win game. If we want to keep plugging away at the playoffs, we sit in 10th at the moment, so it's still close. But if we don't win this game and teams around us start winning, the games in hand are starting to disappear now. We haven't got that excuse in us anymore, have we really? I think it's only down to one game in hand on a lot of teams now. So yeah, I think this is definitely a must-win game, and I think we can do it. I think it's not going to be an easy win by any means, because as we said before, but I think we've got enough in our side, and we've had this week off to put in training, and I think our players will be riled up for it. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 away win to Ipswich. Not a goal fest, but 3 points.
Well, Dan is predicting 3 points for Ipswich Town this weekend versus Wigan. Let us know what you think. Are Ipswich going to win? Are they going to draw? Or are they just going to lose? Are we going to see this unpredictable Ipswich Town side, which we do not know we're going to actually get at the moment? But when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Premier League. We had 4 matches this week, only 4, because of the FA Cup and international duties and all sorts. But we did see a change in the relegation battle that is now heating up, and the race for European football. It's getting very interesting game by game. So we'll talk about that when we come back.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George, and Dan, as always. Now, before we move on talking about the Premier League this week, I better mention the social medias: Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud, both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our previous shows, see any additional content, or even if you missed anything from this show, don't worry. If you missed Dan talking about Ipswich Town and all its glory, it'll be up at 6 p.m. as the show finishes, so you can listen back to whatever you missed out the show. Now, the Premier League, as I mentioned before, is heated up this week in the battle for the relegation zone. Also, the race for European football is getting very interesting. And here are the results from those 4 games we had. So we had a game on Friday, which was Fulham versus Leeds, that ended 2-1 to Leeds. In a big 6-pointer team, Brighton and Newcastle, that finished 3-0 to Brighton. Arsenal did a comeback against West Ham. They were 3-0 down in 32 minutes, and it finished 3-3 in that thrilling game. And Spurs got a 2-0 victory over Aston Villa. But damn, Brighton, they took a very crucial step in the battle for survival to stay in the Premier League. They got a 3-0 victory over relegation threat Newcastle. Brighton, that quality shone through on the night. They're now 6 points away from the drop zone after 2 wins in a row. Can we say that they're possibly safe at the moment for another season in the Premier League? I know they're only 6 points clear, but they're having better form than Newcastle and Fulham at the moment. And with their qualities that they're showing, and we've seen before, we saw it back in the beginning of the year, they look like they have a good chance of staying up now.
Yeah, they do. It's weird how things change so quickly because they were not really scoring goals and losing every game, looking like they're gonna be down. And I think I predicted them to be in the bottom three like 2 weeks ago, and then as soon as I say that, they start getting wins, of course. But massive win against Newcastle for them. Massive 6-pointer. They managed to beat them convincingly. So yeah, really good win. Not going to say they're scot-free just yet. They've still got a game in hand on Fulham though, so that's going to be interesting. But things change really quickly. So I'm not going to say they're free, but it's looking quite likely that they're going to stay up, and they're good at doing that. They're good at they do it. They seem to do it every single year. They seem to be able to get out of a sticky situation. Kind of looking like they're going to go down, but they manage to stay up. I think it's because of the quality in their side, because they've still got some decent players in that squad. So yeah, I think that was a brilliant win against Newcastle, and it can only go up from here because they need to keep winning to stay away from that bottom three, because 2 wins for Fulham and that's them back in it again.
Yes, I must apologise for that loud bang. I was just grabbing a piece of paper out to say that you predicted Brighton were going to be 16th, and they're currently 16th at the moment. And
okay.
Yeah. Also in this prediction,
Nice.
Sheffield United are currently 11th in your prediction. I don't know.
Well, who predicted Sheffield United to be bottom? Come on. I'm sure you didn't either.
Last season I did, unfortunately. But that's last season. Last season's prediction. But I don't know if it... no, it's not mathematically possible, is it, to get up there? No, it's not. No, it's not for them, because they need to win. I think they need to win like 8 of their last 9 games to stand a chance of getting out.
Imagine if they finish 11th.
God.
What prediction?
It'd be bonkers, but I don't know if it'll happen anymore. But the side that Brighton played before we get sidetracked was Newcastle, and Steve Bruce, after the game, took full responsibility for the defeat, which is now seeing Newcastle teeter above the drop zone. Only 2 wins out of their last 15, 9 points from those 15 games. Another poor performance by Newcastle, but luckily for them, Fulham couldn't win against Leeds. But for Newcastle, they need to start to win and actually look like they want to fight here, because if not, they're going to be in the Championship next season. And we've seen how competitive the Championship is at the moment. They might not get back up the way they're playing.
No, it's with Fulham, we know Fulham could win games, so it's a real worry for Newcastle. Their fans are getting up. I don't know if you saw getting fed up. I don't know if you saw the banner they put out in front of their stadium the other day. They're getting fed up with Steve Bruce now, and I don't blame them. It's such a poor run, and as I said, Fulham can get a win wherever. They've shown that, so it's going to be really, really tough end of the season for them. With Fulham losing the last few games, they kind of dropped off again, looking like they're gonna survive, but it's still, it's still in the balance for them. And with Newcastle not getting results, can you only see it going one way? Because they're conceding loads, they're losing, they're performing really poorly, and it's such a surprise with the squad that they have that they seem to be performing really badly. Because at the start of the year, I thought their squad was definitely good enough to be mid-table. And a club as big as Newcastle, we say this every week, a club as big as Newcastle, why do I need to say that? But because everyone knows. But yeah, it's going to be a tough few weeks for Newcastle now. And I don't think Steve Bruce's time he's not going to be there much longer, especially if they go down. I don't think he'll be there next season. What happens either way. I don't think if they stay up, it will stay either. So I think Steve Bruce's time is coming to an end, which I guess Newcastle fans will be happy about. But this is massively important few weeks to end the season to stay up, because as you said, Championship football is not what they want, and it's tough. I know they managed to do it last time, but it wasn't easy for them. they lost to us that season, which
Yeah.
so it's not an easy thing to get out of the Championship. So they need to be able to pick up wins to stay in the Premier League. And are they going to be able to do it with the way they're playing at the moment? I'd say no.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to see what happens because we know that Mike Ashley is still giving support to Steve Bruce. That's the second time he has done it now this season. And he said that about a squad like that, a lot of the players are injured, but if they went down to the Championship, that squad would easily get dismantled. I think you say St. Maximin be off, Callum Wilson, a very good striker, would be off. Alron, he'd be off as well. There's always talks about him going, but it'd be interesting to see what happens. But as you mentioned there, Fulham, they missed out on another big chance to get out of the relegation zone. They lost to Leeds, who have been in very bad form recently, but they couldn't capitalize on that opportunity. But Dan, could this be their best opportunity for a little bit of time now? Because Fulham and Newcastle are going to have some tricky fixtures coming up. So for Newcastle, their next four, they've got Tottenham at home, Burnley away, West Ham at home, and Liverpool away. And for Fulham, they've got Aston Villa away, Wolves at home, Arsenal away, and Chelsea away. So it looks like both sides are going to be having some tricky fixtures. And perfectly honest, it's going to be this is going to be a sentence that from your favourite manager of all time, but every point is going to be a prisoner at this moment of time, we can now say.
It is, yeah. It's got to that point in the season, hasn't it? And it's really disappointing for Fulham because, they started looking really good, looking like, they were one win away from getting out of the bottom three, but they just cannot do it. And it's really disappointing. I thought the game against Leeds would have been a decent opportunity. I know Leeds are a tough team to play against. The attacking football is difficult to play against, but I still thought that they could have got a result there. So it's really disappointing for them that they can't get out of that. But with Newcastle not performing well, not getting the results they need, I think there is still a chance for them to stay up. As you said, they've got a difficult run of games. So you don't expect them to pick up much points, but if they can just get a draw here or there. They've got a better goal difference than Newcastle. If they can get 2 draws out of these games and Newcastle don't get results, that's them out of the bottom 3. So that's all they need. Maybe even, get a lucky 1-0 win somewhere. It's all they need to get out. And I think once they're out of that bottom 3, then they'll have the confidence to stay up. But, it's firmly in the balance for me because Fulham can go because they've shown that they can just not really perform in games and lose games. So it's going to be really interesting to see if they manage to stay up this year and if they manage to beat Newcastle in the league table because it's so close and I can't predict who's going to be in bottom 3 really between those two.
Well, I'll tell you what's going to be interesting. It's the final game of the season, which is Fulham versus Newcastle.
Wow.
We could be speaking, by the time we get to that point, we could be in a situation where Fulham are only 2 points off safety and Newcastle 2 points off being in the relegation zone. Like, that would be basically a head-to-head shootout, really, if you've got to win. If not, you're not surviving. So we'll have to wait and see about that. That will be very interesting. And that is everything for your Premier League this week. And we haven't got any Premier League games coming up next week because we're on international duty. So we'll have to wait and see. What we're talking about, we'll probably be talking about England and that. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about the FA Cup. That was back on this weekend. We had some quarter-final games, and we now finally found out who's going to be going off to Wembley this season.
The best place in Ipswich to hear the latest football debates, Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George and Dan. As always, now before we talk about the FA Cup, who's going to be playing who in the semi-finals, I better mention the social medias: Twitter at Pitchside Talk, Instagram Talk_Pitch, YouTube, Mixcloud, both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our previous shows, now, Dan, the semi-finals of the FA Cup, we now finally know who's going to be playing who, and the first one we've got is Leicester versus Southampton. Leicester have reached their first FA Cup semi-finals in the first time for 39 years after a 3-1 victory over Manchester United. And they will be playing Southampton, who beat Bournemouth 3-0, and they've reached their first semi-finals since the 17/18 season. Quite an interesting semi-finals here, I think we can say. Southampton, who have struggled in the Premier League, but the FA Cup run has been very impressive, we can say. They have beaten the current holders, Arsenal, in that run. But for Leicester, been very strong in the league, and for them, they have been searching for this cup glory for a little bit of time. And with them knocked out in the Europa League, this could be a perfect opportunity for them to win it now.
Yeah, it could be. It's I guess it's good that they've got Southampton in the semi-finals for their fans, because they didn't want to get a Chelsea or a Man City in the semi-final, because I think we all know what would have happened then. But that this gives maybe, but this gives them a chance, doesn't it? This really does. Although you can't take that away from Southampton, they've had a really good run in the FA Cup. You can't rule them out. But you'd say that Leicester are favourites going into it. But this gives them both teams a really good chance to get to the final at least. Well, one of them is. What a stupid comment. But yeah, Leicester have had a really good season again. They're still fighting in there for European football. But I think this could be a really good chance to finally get some domestic silverware. It's going to be tough. They're going to be if they do get through, they're going to be playing Chelsea or Man City. So it's going to be tough. And will they be able to win in the semi-final, the final against one of them clubs? It's going to be tough. But, I think they can go into this with their heads held high and try and get to the final. So it's a good chance, and see what happens then, because we all know anything can happen in the FA Cup final.
Yes.
We've all seen it before. The infamous Wigan versus Man City, Portsmouth winning it not that long ago. So yeah, anything can happen.
Yes, anything can happen. Also, touch wood, there'll be fans back in the stadium at that time as well. Well, as you mentioned there, the second semi-final is a clash between two titans, Chelsea versus Manchester City. Chelsea got through with a 2-0 victory over Sheffield United, continuing Thomas Tuchel's unbeaten run. He hasn't lost as Chelsea manager, and I think he hasn't conceded a goal at Stamford Bridge in all his time being there, which is now over 11 hours. Bonkers. But for Manchester City, they kept their quest alive for the quadruple. It's currently on course this season after seeing Everton off 2-0 and also getting into the semi-finals for the third successive season now. 14 FA Cup trophies between the two sides, 8 to Chelsea, 6 to Manchester City, both doing well now in the league and the Champions League. This game here is going to be absolute fireworks, because Tuchel versus Pep Guardiola, it's going to be a fascinating matchup between two very informed managers. Yeah,
it is. Both teams are on really good runs at the moment, so it's going to be a really good matchup. Really good to see this in the semi-final of an FA Cup. Hope it's going to be a really good game. And it's hard to predict this one, because I think both teams have got equal chance to get through. Chelsea have been so good at the moment under Tuchel. He's made such a difference after Lampard was sacked. He's come in and done an amazing job. And then Pep with Man City, what a season they're having as well. So, as you said, could be fireworks, and it's going to be. I really hope it's going to be an entertaining game, because it'll be a bit anticlimactic if we go into it, and it'll be just one of them boring 1-0s or a 0-0 and going to extra time. So yeah, let's hope for a good game, and let's hope the final's good as well after the teams go through.
Yes, let's hope that it will be an interesting game. Now I'm going to actually ask you a very serious question here. Who's going to be in the final of the FA Cup between these four teams here?
Okay, well, the first semi-final, I think you already know who I've picked after my comments about that. So Leicester are going to be in the final. I'm going to say Chelsea. I think it'll be a Leicester-Chelsea final, yeah. I'm going to root for Chelsea in this one. It's going to be a really good game between these two. I think Man City are probably favourites, but let's see what happens. Leicester v Chelsea final.
Wow. So Man City, no quadruple for them this season then? No. Gosh. Wow. Well, I guess I'll crack open the champagne and I'll keep the quadruple.
Yeah, but you know what my predictions are like. It will be Southampton Man City final now. I said that. So.
Oh yeah. Well, and then Che Adams will score a goal from the halfway line in the final. It would be like that. Just as a little nod to when they played last summer, actually. Che Adams scored from the halfway line.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Live on BBC as well, which the final will be live on there as well. Well, that is some interesting predictions there for the FA Cup. We'll have to wait and see who will be playing who in the FA Cup. But when we come back, we're going to actually have a bit of time here for a football roundup.
Pitchside Talk, footy debate from the Premier League Outback.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on iRadios, Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George and Dan. As always, now before we go, and it is the end of the show, we've got a bit of time to do a football roundup. We've actually got some substantial amount of time. We haven't got 2+ added minutes. We've actually got a bit more this time. So, Dan, I hear you got a bit of news for us about Ipswich Town and transfers and people being let go.
Yeah, I do. We say it's been an uneventful week for us, but there has been a few things going on behind the scenes. So first of all, Barry Cotter, a player that hasn't really had a look in at all. He's been let go. He had a good game in Mick McCarthy's last game for Ipswich. I think he won a penalty shootout for us as well in the trophy against Peterborough. He's been let go. Not really fussed about that. Wish him well for the future though, wherever he goes. And also the second bit of news is Elkan Baggott. A player that's he's got a lot of potential apparently. Loved in his home country in Indonesia. He's like a celebrity there. He's gone out on loan to Kings Lynn with former Paul Lambert's assistant Ian Culverhouse. So that's an interesting link there. But yeah, he's gone to Kings Lynn. That will only be good for him to get some game time, some first team football, and let's hope he comes back and maybe gets a look in the first team squad because apparently he's a really good player.
Yeah, that would be very interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, the Barry Cotter news, he's gone. I completely forgot he even played for Ipswich Town. I think he made 2 appearances last season. Did he play against Coventry in the FA Cup replay?
Yes, because you were sitting next to me that day, weren't you?
Yes, I was, and I got soaking wet, and I went, why am I not in my original seats where it's under shelter? God, I wish we can go back to those days, but unfortunately we can't. Back down online, was wishing him all the best in that, and also to Barry Cotter as well, and finding a new club. Well, I've got some news for you. I've got some international news from the world of European football, and Diego Costa, who was let go by Atletico Madrid back in January, will be playing for Benfica next season, according to reports after reaching agreement with the Portuguese club. And also, Cristiano Ronaldo will not be leaving Juventus this summer. Juventus have no interest in selling the Portuguese forward, according to their vice president, Neved. He said that he will not be leaving this club as long as he's contracted to it. So it looks like the planned returns to Madrid are going to be on hold. And also, there's another player returned back to Madrid, Gareth Bale. He has said in reports that he's only going to do the season at Spurs because he wanted to play football, go to the Euros, be match fit, and he's going to head back to Madrid. So basically, he's looking forward to getting back on those golf courses in the sunny Spanish sun, is what he's saying there, and get a nice payday for not playing football. But, Gareth Bale, at least he's honest about it, I think we can say. But no, that is everything from Football Roundup this week. And that is everything from the show. We've got to the end of the show. Well, next week we'll be talking about Ipswich Town, and the internationals are going to have 3 England games to cover. We could have covered it today, but we thought we'll save it for next week against San Marino, which is that game. So we'll have to wait and see what we think about that next week. But Dan, will you be joining me next week?
Of course, yeah, as always.
That's good to hear because, well, we'll be a bit lost. But ho-hum, we'll get to the end of the show.
Because you're not watching the England games. Whoops, I
I didn't say I wasn't watching the England games. I just haven't got an interest in watching the England games.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, there are only, was it World Cup qualifiers and international friendlies? It's like
we want the Euros.
Yeah, that's all we want. We all want the Euros. But what have we got coming after us? We've got the Gap Show 6 until 7, the Review Show 7 till 9, and Flip the Switch 9 until 10. Well, Dan, I want to thank you very much for joining me this week.
No problem.
We will see you next week. I've been George, and ciao.
Bye.
The whistle has been blown for full time. Tune in next week for another jam-packed show.